this is going to be a presentation on exploring language, an introduction to language formation. So, quick definition of language. Language is defined as a structured system of symbols and sounds used for communication. It encompasses various forms, including spoken, written, and signed languages, serving as a crucial tool in social interaction. Language plays a pivotal role in human society by facilitating communication, expressing identity, and shaping cultural narratives. It allows the individual to share knowledge and build connections, making it essential for social cohesion. So, phonetics and phonology is part of the formation of language. So, phonetics studies the physical sounds of human speech, while phonology deals with how those sounds function within particular languages. These fields explore sound production, transmission, and how sounds combine to convey meaning, forming the foundation of spoken language. Morphology and syntax. Morphology examines the structure of words and their parts, while syntax studies how those words combine into sentences. Together, they reveal how complex expressions are formulated, emphasizing the rules that govern sentence construction and word formation across languages. Semantics focuses on the meaning of words and phrases, while pragmatics considers the context in which language is used. Understanding these aspects is crucial for grasping implied meanings, speech acts, and the influence of social context on communication. So, brief background on the psychology of language. So, language acquisition is a process through which individuals learn a language. This involves stages such as babbling in infants, vocabulary development in toddlers, and sorry, I can't pronounce. I have such a hard time pronouncing words sometimes. Syntactical understanding as children mature, guided both by innate mechanisms and environmental influences. Language processing refers to how individuals comprehend, produce, and store language. It involves various cognitive functions and areas of the brain. Broca's area, Wernicke's area, and the angular gyrus are all parts of the brain in which language is formed, recalled, and comprehended. In looking at concepts like the development of language, rhetoric, schemas, pre-existing knowledge structures play a huge role in the creation of language as we know it. In looking at concepts like the development of language, schemas play a huge role in the creation of language. In looking at language, we as a collective have decided over time to put names to physical objects in an attempt to organize and categorize concepts and ideas to make it easier to communicate with one another. For instance, a chair is a chair and not a table. Based on pre-existing knowledge and hearing that previous sentence, you drew from memory the image of a chair, a separate seat for one person with traditionally a back and four legs, not an image of a piece of furniture with a flat top and four legs. This idea of the creation of language gets more interesting as we begin to categorize types of chairs. For instance, there are bar stools, a type of chair with no back and traditionally a circular seat with four legs, and barber chairs, a type of chair that has a back, maybe armrests, and a hydraulic mechanism within a single bar that leads to a circular base. Past knowledge helps to formulate the acquisition and creation of new knowledge. There are many instances of language evolution that have occurred in the last decade alone. What I like to call the doggo lexicon in recent development of language assigned to animals, particularly house pets. We began anthropomorphizing our beloved pets and giving them their own language to make sense of something unknown to us, how house pets communicate, and make it into something familiar thus making sense of a communication barrier. For instance, we think a dog might have the communication and spelling skills of a toddler, thus calling themselves a cuter word doggo or pupper than the abrupt dog and puppy. This extends to other common words like small, spelled SMOL, and large, spelled LORGE. All this to say, the creation of language has much to do with implicit social cognition and schemas as the ideological phenomenon we quote unquote decide as a collective. For instance, the notion of eating cereal for breakfast, not a baked potato. Cognitive psychology examines how language influences thought and vice versa. Research shows that language can shape perceptions and categorization, emphasizing the relationship between linguistic structures and cognitive functions. Language and identity. So, language plays a crucial role in forming individual and collective identity. It functions as a marker of belonging to specific cultural, ethnic, and social groups, influencing how individuals perceive themselves and are perceived by others. A sense of belonging and orientation to the it's a sense of belonging and an orientation to the world around us. So a lot of who we are, who we identify as, will shape our language structures, and it will have an impact on how we navigate the world. For instance, if you are a sports fan, there are specific niches within the sports world. There's football, basketball, hockey, baseball, amongst other sports. There are languages and jargon associated with each of those sports that if you are not a fan of a particular sport, you won't understand what language is being used. For instance, offsides is used in football and icing is used in hockey, both of which are different from each other. And typically, people who are fans of the sports will know what each of those means in the context of the game. Language diversity and dialects. The world is home to thousands of language and dialects, each uniquely reflecting the history of culture and its speakers. This diversity fosters rich linguistic landscapes, but can also lead to communication barriers and social stratification. Culture shapes language, impacting vocabulary, idioms, and expressions. Cultural nuances often determine language use, making it essential for effective communication within diverse communities and enhancing intercultural understanding. So, like we just talked about, the Doggo lexicon is one idea of this. So, we decided collectively that animals are extremely cute, and with that idea, we created a cuter language to be associated with them. We've now entered Gen Alpha, and they have their own new phrases. So we have a generational gap in that sense, how their culture has influenced the creation of language. Looking at history, you can date back to the 1950s, 60s when the bee's knees was a phrase. Nowadays, even though we still use it, it's not as prevalent and it seems as more of a novice than as part of our actual language culture. So, language serves as a fundamental tool for communication shaped by sound, phonetics, structure, syntax, and meaning, semantics. Psychological aspects like language acquisition and processing reveal our cognitive abilities, and cultural influences showcase the diverse